Kia ora, I'm Zoe George, and welcome to the March episode of Fair Play, a podcast covering women in sport, from athletes and results to current affairs and issues. You can listen to our entire back catalogue that features interviews with some of this country's top sportswomen at rnz.co.nz and wispsports.com. At Wisp Sports, you can also find a bevy of fantastic sports shows from around the world covering everything from rugby to sailing. And if you're after something not sporty, there's a huge selection on rnz.co.nz. You can also keep up to date with all the happenings on social media at Wisp Sports, at RNZ and at producer_Zoe. This month, lots of quick hits from rugby to cricket. We talk Com Games with Silver Ferns captain Katrina Grant very shortly, how to avoid burnout with sports psychologist Karen Nimmo, and we get an update on the potty parity situation at the Basin Reserve. Before we talk to Katrina though, you've got to meet today's co-host, Netball Central CEO Carolyn Young. She was appointed to that role in 2013 and the Central Pulse, my team, go the Pulse, has gone from strength to strength in that time last year. They did all right, I think, Carolyn. This year, they're looking to take the championship, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Now, before we get into what we're going to talk to you about, which is primarily administration and governance and finding a pathway for women, we're actually going to talk to the captain of the Pulse and of the Silver Ferns and co-host of Fair Play sometimes when she's in Wellington, Katrina Grant. Kia ora, Katrina.
Hey Zoe.
It's lovely to chat with you. Com Games are just around the corner. Silver Ferns go into the games losing to Jamaica this past weekend, losing the Tani Jamison Trophy, and it's the first time the Ferns have lost the title. Former Ferns assistant coach Robin Broughton says New Zealand's taken its eye off the competition and is worried about the Commonwealth Games. What do you think about that, Katrina?
Well, obviously losing to Jamaica wasn't ideal for us. We had prepared those 4 games in 4 days to see how we would cope. Playing games consecutively. Normally we'd probably have at least 1 or 2 games between, 1 or 2 days between games, I should say. But it's good for us. It's actually probably really good for other teams, say Australia and England, to have a look at Jamaica against us as well. No one's seen them for a few years, especially with Janelle already having won a premiership and having time in New Zealand and Australia. It's kind of lifted their game a lot and they've given them a lot of confidence. And I'm glad we've seen them now and not first timing over there. But it's it was a big learning for us. We've got obviously a lot of work to do and not as much time as what we would like. But we've still confidence in ourselves, and at the moment that's all that matters.
Were you putting on court your top team for this competition?
Well, we'll get everyone on court, obviously, but we've had a lot of injuries as well. So we were very light on putting Maria Folau out there. She only played, I think, maybe 6 quarters at most over the whole 4 days, and then Kayla Cullen's been out with an knee injury as well, and there's a few people who are out, but that's no excuse for us either. But we're hoping that when we go into the Commonwealth Games, as soon as we kind of set foot over there, that we'll have 12 strong, healthy women and ready to go and playing as much netball as they can.
Were these games in this competition seen as a warm up? Did you go into them lightly?
No, definitely not. We would never go into any test match lightly. Playing for your country, if you did that, then you're kind of in. You shouldn't be there. That's not what we're about. There's no way. These were really good build-up games for us that we needed to set our game plan, to understand where we're at and what we need to do to do better. But like I said, once we get into the village and get over to the Gold Coast and we have 12 strong, fit, healthy women going in there and knowing what we need to do, and getting amongst a whole New Zealand team of over 200 other athletes will be really eye-opening, and I think will bring a lot of passion out in the team as well. And you just want to get over there and you get started.
What are the realistic goals for the Games for you? I mean, is a gold medal actually realistic for New Zealand?
Fair enough, fair question, but of course we wouldn't be going over there to get anything but a gold medal. That's what we've always gone to Commonwealth Games to do, and that's what we're still going to go over there and try and do.
In the pool play, you've got Uganda first up, then Wales, Malawi and Scotland. I mean, they're not big netball playing nations, are they?
No, they're not, but they're also really good for us to get different styles of games under our belt, because obviously with Jamaica have the Caribbean style and England having their style, they kind of got a more of an Australian style going for them at the moment. But it is really good for us to play against other teams and build up, and that England game for us in our pool match is hugely important, and we probably need to rotate our team a lot so we can have some of our top players rested for that game.
Following the loss to Jamaica on the weekend and heading into the Com Games, what's the overall team spirit at the moment?
We're good. These are the times when you cannot fall apart. This is where your team culture really comes to fruition, and how you bounce back from these things are the most important. And we've done a lot of work over the last 6 months, probably actually even the last 6 weeks, to really know where we're at on and off the court and coming together, and we've been able to be so honest with each other. And when you can be honest with each other on and off the court, it can bring you tighter. And in a situation, I think no one's split. After the game, we've had great chats, and even from the last, we got home yesterday, and we're all still in contact with each other. And without that, then you can't move forward. And it's we're lucky we've got a tight unit, and we're just trying to do everything we can. And even though at the moment no one's got great belief in us, and that's fair enough, as we haven't been performing as well as we have. But as long as our families have got our back and we've got each other's back, at the moment, that's all that matters. And we're going to go over there and put in some hard work and do what we can do.
Other than playing netball, what's the best thing about going to the Commonwealth Games?
Just seeing so many other athletes who do exactly what you do day in and day out, and hearing from them, listening to them, becoming friends with them, and just the insight of what else other people go through is great. As in netball, in any sport, you get caught in your own little bubble of what you do, and it's so great just to go over there and meet so many more athletes who are on the same path as you. And do you have to all bunk together as well? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's I'm not really 100% sure what it's like in the Gold Coast, but we definitely will share a floor with other athletes. I think our apartments are just netball, but on our floor, I think we've got the weightlifters again, maybe. We've had them in Delhi before, and they're so awesome. Still mates with them and everything. So it's it's definitely friendships for life when you go over there. Oh, it's like a little bit of a reunion, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Well, Katrina, it's been great chatting with you. We do wish you all the very best for the Commonwealth Games. Let's hope you can bring home a gold from the Gold Coast. Oh, thank you. Katrina Grant, captain of the Silver Ferns New Zealand netball team and of the Pulse, which is the team in which Carolyn oversees. Central Pulse, they are my home team. Carolyn, I love them.
We all love them. I'm sure all your listeners out there are great fans of the Pulse.
They're fantastic. Last year, second, is that right?
That's right. We made grand finals, made playoffs for the first time in our history, so it was sort of a record-breaking year, and we had a fabulous time and really, I think, broke through some barriers that we hadn't been able to do before. So the team has a different feel about them this year. They have the confidence to know what it takes to actually take that extra step and get to that space. And although we're confident that we can continue to go forward and win the championship, which is the goal for the year, every team knows that they're one injury away from catastrophe as well. So we've got our feet on the ground, still working really, really hard. But yeah, absolutely know that prize is there. And Katrina said at our launch the other day, she didn't like coming second. It really sucked. So I was really looking forward to working hard in the months when they come back from Com Games and we get them back. And so looking forward to that. Should be a really great time.
And it must be nice seeing Pulse players in the Silver Ferns.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I know that Amelia Ann's excited about going as well. It's been one of her goals, and she's worked so incredibly hard since she had the baby, and really great for her to have made that transition and get back into that Silver Ferns team. So congratulations to her, and I know that she's looking forward to taking that time with Katrina.
So the Com Games start on April 4th. The first game for the Ferns is against Uganda on Thursday, April 5th, and their biggest game will come against England on April 11th. Now, the New Zealand Commonwealth Games team consists of about 250 athletes across 18 sports, and it's supposedly the biggest Com Games team we've ever had, which is very exciting. For the first time, women's rugby sevens will be included, and it's also the first time New Zealand has sent a transgendered athlete to represent us. Carolyn, we've been talking about weightlifter Laurel Hubbard and access to sport for transgendered athletes. Her inclusion has caused a number of people to speak out about it, including the head of Australian weightlifting. But because of Laurel's inclusion, discussions around transgendered athletes have grown, and most recently an article about downhill mountain biker Kate Weatherly was published talking about her transition from male to female. Within the article published by Fairfax here in New Zealand, it says that her testosterone level is the same as, if not lower than, most female athletes. She recently won the National Downhill Champs, beating her nearest competitor by 13 seconds. She previously competed in the men's competition, finishing in the middle of the pack. BMX development coach Ash Rawson says, quote, Kate has developed as a male as far as bone structure, bone density, muscle mass, lung capacity. It's why we have gender sports. So do we need to remove the gender segregation from sport and focus purely on skill? What's the rules and the policies in netball, Carolyn?
Well, it's a tricky question, isn't it, Zoe? And it's something that's really topical at the moment. And I think there's a couple of aspects to it. There's an aspect around performance and high performance athletes and what we think might be right there. And there's the aspect around community and engagement in sport and being involved. And Netball New Zealand regulations, as part of their integrity regulations, set out that if you are transgender, that you've either got a legal status as a female, so you've undergone some surgical procedures, or your testosterone levels or hormone levels are that within the required levels as set by the New Zealand Olympic Committee, then you are female and you can play sport as a female. So we comply with all of those sorts of things. So we want to be diverse and allow everyone to participate. I know if you're looking at it from a performance perspective, as Ash Rawson said, from a BMX perspective, if you get a male who's 6'7" transitions to a female and then is available to play for a international team, it does feel that they have gone through all their developmental stages as a male. So it's a really tricky place to land and feel really comfortable in. But certainly the rules state that if you have hormones at the right level, then you are female. If you've done the transition, then you are female. So it's kind of, it's clear in black and white, but I think it's quite complex. And when you start talking about high performance and gold medals and all of those sorts of sponsorships and things like that, it becomes a bit more complex.
And this is an issue that is going to be ongoing. I really look forward to watching Laurel compete at the Com Games.
Yeah,
and
exciting.
And I'm interested to see the media that cover it, and see what some of the comments are around it.
It's certainly going to be for her. It's going to be some massive challenges in terms of the pressures around the commentary. I mean, it'd be hard for her to just ignore that completely. So I know that she's going to have plenty of challenges as well as the physical challenges. So best of luck to her as she goes forward in her pursuit of gold.
I absolutely look forward to seeing that. She's going to be, all our athletes are going to be incredible. I think this is going to be a record year for New Zealand. Staying with netball, Carolyn, it was reported earlier this month that women's rugby is putting netball under threat. New Zealand Rugby's recently announced an investment in women's rugby with pay and paid parental leave on the cards. And with the Black Ferns and women's sevens winning tournaments left, right and centre, it's drawn attention of women and girls. Are you seeing this regarding participation numbers in netball?
No, we haven't. Participation numbers in netball are fairly flat, to be honest. They haven't grown a lot recently, and I think the same is true of rugby. I know that the male counterparts in rugby are declining, and their growth is coming from the female sport. And our perspective is really, we want women to be out there being active, being engaged with sport and being engaged in the community. So if more women are playing sport, that's fabulous. I think we can all we can all have people participating in our own sports. I don't think that we're competing against each other. I think there's attributes that would draw people to netball that would draw people to rugby. And I think the important thing is that people are out there and being active and engaged in the community. And at this stage, we haven't seen any major impact from women's rugby into netball. And, we might regret to live that in years to come, but I don't think so. I think we can live amicably alongside each other. I think it's just important that people are active.
Netball's competing for television time with rugby, though, isn't it? Not just women's rugby, but with rugby full stop.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's one of our biggest challenges. Obviously, the ANZ Premiership is broadcast live on TV. All our games are broadcast live, and all of the Silver Ferns games are broadcast live. And the biggest challenge you have is actually getting onto Sky Sport 1. Because rugby dominates Sky Sport 1, any international competition, cricket or netball, goes on to Sky Sport 2, 3 or 4 if there's a Super Rugby game on. So Super Rugby takes precedent over international sport of any other fixture. So the challenge for all of us is really how do we get women's sport on TV and get it on the channels that people are watching, because when most people turn on sport, they go to Sky Sport 1. And if they like what they're seeing there, they stay on that channel and they haven't surfed the other channels to find netball. So with netball, for example, you need to go to Sky Sport 4 or Sky Sport 3, then it might be on Sky Sport 2, might be back to Sky Sport 4. So there's no
consistency.
Absolutely. And you get the best broadcast numbers when you're on Sky Sport 1. So how do you get on Sky Sport 1? You get on Sky Sport 1 if you've got the best broadcast numbers, but you don't get them unless you get on there. So it's a quandary. How do you get better broadcast numbers?
The fact that they are prioritising domestic rugby, men's rugby, the Super Tournament, ahead of international New Zealand netball games.
Yes, and international cricket as well. It's amazing, isn't it? You know, the most recent, you know, I'm a sports fan, so I can tell you I follow the cricket as well. And so, you know, the cricket's been on Sky Sport 3, 2 and 1 over the one test match. So, you know, it's a challenge for them, because when rugby's been on, they've been bumped down to other channels, and netball's been on, you know, a couple of different channels during the same time as well. So it is really challenging, and you know, Sky has the cash, and they you know, set the rules.
We're speaking with Carolyn Young. She's our guest co-host from Central Netball Pulse Territory, my team, yes. Are women in sport being prioritised by broadcasters?
No.
No?
No.
Why not?
That's a very good question. I think that ultimately it's a traditional, you know, we're still back in that space where traditionally men have dominated sport in New Zealand and around the world, and so therefore they've taken the priority of space, and we don't get better people watching our game because they don't see it. And you need to be able to see it and experience it to be able to appreciate it. And I haven't had one male that's come to our game that hasn't said they've loved it and hasn't said how inspired they were by it and how physical and athletic it was, and they didn't realise because they hadn't watched it. And it is about that gender equity position, I think, and it's about us thinking about what's, you know, realistic for both sports.
Something that I was really keen to talk to you about was about women in administration and in governance. You know, you've been in this role now since 2013, but there was a few before you, right?
Yeah, we were talking before we came on air, and it was interesting. And I had an interview with Ross Carl from TV3 when I first started, and you know, I was sitting there, and it was going quite nicely. We had a couple of questions, and then he threw at me, "So Carolyn, there's been 9 CEOs in the last 5 years. What makes you any different?" I was like, "Holy heck!" I knew there'd been a few, but I didn't know there had been that many. So they're really challenging roles. You know, we lack resource and we lack finances, and so you've got to commit 110%. You've got to roll your sleeves up and get stuff done. It's not a job where you're completely an executive and you sit and have meetings and have people do the work behind you. You've got to actually be able to do the work and be interested in doing it. And we were a new organisation when I took over. The zone had only just been established that year, and I was the third CEO in that 1 year. And so we needed to get the foundation of our organisation right. We needed to put a whole lot of things in place so that we could make sure that we were going to be successful moving forward, I think. And once you get those key pillars in place, then you can go on and do some other things. But you spend a lot of time with your head down, sleeves rolled up, and just working. That's the answer in these roles. Sport
New Zealand's called for 20 more women on sports boards, and to be on a board, you need to have an established executive career. So how do we get that career? What attracted you to being an executive in a sporting environment?
I think the dream of it sounded like really fantastic. I mean, I'm a sports fan. I've been involved in sport all my life, and I'm quite capable in terms of business and being able to run an organisation. So I thought, you know, it would be just perfect. It sounded like it was a match made in heaven. And I think the reality is sometimes a little bit different because it is more complex than I thought when I first started, and much busier than any other busy role I'd ever had as well. And so I think the key things around a pathway to sports administration would be to being able to have some commercial acumen to be able to run a business, so understanding what are the pressures, being able to manage your finances, your budget, having the HR experience, being able to understand the marketing space. There's a whole raft of things you need to be able to understand and run a business. And then on top of that, have an interest in sport, but not be heavily invested in it yourself. So you can't really be heavily invested as a participant and then have you have to take your blinkers off to be able to do other things. You need to be able to see from a wide lens to be able to make good decisions. And I think you also want to be able to have that sense of community, that sort of social change perspective that sport can provide in terms of sport provides, I believe that netball can provide our next leaders in our community. They'll provide the next leaders in business. And I think that's really important to connect all of us, and community is a really special place. So the leaders won't necessarily come from high performance. They might come from your local club team in the second or third grade. But I think that sport is one of those great connectors. So being able to pull all of those things together and use a network of people, use the people that you know, ask for help, seek advice, apply for jobs, get feedback, take the feedback on board. What are the learnings you need to do? And never be afraid to say that you did something wrong and that you can do better and strive for more.
Our next guest is Karen Nimmo, and she's talking about burnout, and this is something that we'll talk about very shortly because, let's face it, you're doing a lot of work. Actually, we all are. And heading into the Com Games, burnout is something to look out for. But what is it, and can we catch it before it gets too much? I spoke to sports psychologist and Fair Play co-host Karen Nimmo earlier. What is burnout?
Burnout? Well, burnout is basically chronic work stress. If you want to talk about it in relation to sport, it looks exactly the same thing. So it's losing your motivation, your passion, and feeling flat in an area that you're once passionate about and devoted a lot of time to.
So how do we recognise the signs that we're getting towards burnout or we are burnt out already?
It looks very much like mild depression. I mean, burnout is not clinically, it's not a classified mental disorder. It's just a term used, which I think has started out being used to reduce stigma. Now, in sport, athletes do tend to use it a lot because they would much rather say they were burnt out or mentally fatigued than to say they were depressed. And I think for good reason. You know, there are still a lot of coaches and management and things that do stigmatise against people that are suffering with some sort of mental issue. So, you know, that's why we use burnout. But really, if you're looking at the signs, the key signs would be the physical and emotional exhaustion, starting to feel a little bit detached and a bit negative about your sport, and also probably finally reduced performance, which is often the last thing to go. You know, people can perform for a very long time well, even while they're feeling bad.
Does burnout also lead to poor decision making?
Absolutely. You know, concentration issues and decision making and all those sorts of things are signs of depression. So, you know, you can really tell that people are affected, and especially when it goes over time, because one of the problems with burnout is that it's slow to develop. So you don't suddenly wake up one day and go, hey, I'm burnt out. It sneaks up on you, and so that's why it can be quite hard to spot.
The athletes are heading off to Com Games very, very shortly. What should they be doing to look after themselves in this environment that is full of other athletes, tough competition, lots of stimuli? What do they need to do to ensure that they don't burn out in this environment?
You're right. I mean, the big stage is the Olympics and the Commonwealth and all the world champs. And there are a lot of issues there that can distract and make it tough. You shouldn't really be going to a big event like the Commonwealth Games if you're burnt out. But having said that, self-care is huge, and there are special preparations you can make for a big event, such as, you know, making sure you've got good support in place, people to talk to, you've got ways of relaxing that are not just related to exercise, you've got good breathing techniques, you've got good sleep strategies, good structure in place, and you use your routines. All that sort of thing can really help on the big occasion, because that's, you know, when people are most likely to suffer with things like performance anxiety and that sort of thing.
Yes, it is an interesting environment to be in. We were just talking to Katrina Grant earlier about the Com Games, and, you know, they've come off a whole lot of losses. So it's also, you know, that's going to be hard for them. But going in with a positive mind frame can help, can't it?
Well, it can, but I agree. I think that's a tough space for the Silver Ferns to be in, because, you know, they're going in with a backdrop of some poor performance and some losses. So they'll have to do some pretty stern work on their mental game to have themselves in a place where they can actually believe it's possible. If you just tell yourself it's possible, that's probably not enough. Evidence is always the best support mechanism. But, if you put good strategies in place, then that can really help.
We're chatting with Karen Nimmo about burnout. Normally we don't talk about men's sport here at Fair Play, right, Karen. But 2 words, Australian cricket. Obviously there's been a lot of news that's come out over the past few days around ball tampering. Why do people, athletes, not just men, but women, why do we cheat?
I knew this one would have you really riled up. I think in this case we all know that it was appalling, and the surprising thing was probably the lack of insight into the fact that it was wrong and the seriousness of what they'd actually done, not just on Steve Smith's behalf but also the wider leadership group. But I think when you're young and you're rich and you're famous, it's quite easy to lose sight of what you're doing and your perspective. Although it sounds appalling, I've seen these sort of things happen before, perhaps not on this scale and with this level of vitriol and hatred that's backed it up. But I think, they should probably look at their culture, because to me it's very surprising that a whole group of young men would sit around and say, hey, this is a thing we should do, and this will be okay, we'll cheat, and this will, and this might help us win. I mean, that is really interesting. If you look at the underarm incident all those years ago, that was one man deciding and asking or tasking another man with cheating. Or, no, it wasn't even cheating actually, it was just, something that was going to make the game, bring it into disrepute. So this to me is really interesting because it's the group, and I think that's where the problem lies. I mean, Steve Smith will take the fall, but hopefully, some others look at themselves as well.
That's sports psychologist and Fair Play co-host Karen Nimmo on burnout. Carolyn Young, CEO of Central Netball, of the Pulse, my home team. Burnout for you. How do you cope?
Well, I think everybody's different, but the key thing is trying to recognise it and trying to anticipate in advance of when you've got really busy stages coming. This is my 5th season coming in for the Pulse. I've got an idea of what's coming in front of me, and being able to manage and put some strategies in place around what do you think are the big pockets of time where you're going to be over capacity, and how will you manage that? What support can you get? What can you do in advance? And what times you just have to put your head down and think, okay, I've got 2 months or 3 months of this and I've just got to get through it. So it is about working out those strategies and having some awareness and recognising. I think one of the big things is actually recognising what triggers your stress and what do you look like under stress, and making sure that you can recognise that, and you ask your colleagues to recognise that in you in case you don't. Sometimes when you're in the middle of something you don't see how you are, so you need assistance to remind you that you're actually under stress, and take some time out, be more reflective and take a walk around the block and come back and go again. Let's
get on to some of quick hits. We've got both cricket and rugby. Let's start with rugby first. All Black and Black Ferns former team doctor, Deb Robinson's been appointed as the New Zealand Rugby's first female rep on the World Rugby Council. This follows a reform by the council that says the 11 unions and 6 regional associations have the right to send an additional representative to council as long as that person is female. This will increase the number of people on the council from 32 to 49, with 17 new reps, all women. Yay!
Fantastic. Well done, NZRU.
Great stuff, isn't it? I was so pleased to read that, and she's going to be a fantastic voice for women in rugby in New Zealand.
Yeah, no, it's great, and it's great that they've done something to get more people on council that are female, because clearly, what they've done up until now hasn't worked. So actually getting a better voice out there is going to be fabulous.
And also staying with rugby. Have you heard about what's been going on in Tonga?
I have read a little bit about it, and it's been interesting, a little bit of a backtrack.
Yeah, so what's happened is that they've done a bit of a backtrack on girls playing rugby. A letter from Tonga's Ministry of Education told staff at Tonga High School that girls shouldn't be participating in rugby or boxing because it goes against young women's dignity and the Tongan culture and traditions. But the Tongan Prime Minister has overridden the ban, saying the letter doesn't represent official government policy and that they, quote, actively encourage the participation of every Tongan student in all sports without discrimination.
Fantastic. Well done, Tonga.
Yeah, no, love it. I think we should encourage, it doesn't matter what sport you want to play, I feel you should be able to do it.
Absolutely. And it's just great for people to be active. And if you're declined to play a sport that you really love, it's a bit like, I wanted to play the piano when I was a kid and I got a guitar instead. My parents wondered why I didn't play it. I didn't want to play the guitar.
Yeah.
If you want to play rugby, go play rugby. You want to play tennis, go play tennis, but do something.
Yeah.
Let's keep up and keep active.
Cricket, my favourite subject. The White Ferns have had a convincing series whitewash against the West Indies over the past couple of weeks. I was very fortunate to catch some of the game at Pukerakua Park in New Plymouth last week when the Windies went into the last over needing only 5 runs. But the White Ferns took 3 quick wickets and changed the game completely. Impressive bowling under pressure. I thought, yeah, nice. Death bowling. Love it. Also, the Ferns have announced a new coach, which I was very fascinated in hearing about. Former Black Cap Jacob Oram has been named as bowling coach. So I took this to New Zealand Cricket and I asked about their pathways for female coaches, since Jacob Oram is not a female, coaching a women's team. And they said New Zealand Cricket supports 4 different categories of coaching training, the most advanced of which is NZC's Performance Coach Program, which targets coaches at the highest performance level. There's currently 1 coach completing this course. The next level down, we've got MAs and major associations to nominate appropriate coaches for their Performance Coach Advance program, which introduced by Sport New Zealand to improve the quality of coaching provided to pre-elite emerging players. Our advice, says New Zealand Cricket, to major associations is that coaches of women's under-21 sides should have this qualification. There's also a few others that are going around, but they are dedicated to ensuring more cricketers and women who want to be involved in coaching gain their qualifications. And interestingly, when I was watching the White Ferns, they announced our openers as batsmen. It's a traditional term, but is it time we scrap it and just call them batters? What are your thoughts on the traditional use of language around sport?
It's interesting, isn't it? I think traditions have a place in sport and it's how they evolve and move as we evolve and move, because traditionally women didn't play cricket, but they do now. So what's appropriate? And maybe we should go out there and do a survey and ask the women what they want to be called. That's one of the key things. It's probably a good starting point and then go from there.
That's a great idea. The Basin Reserve, a potty parity, where there's currently more men's than women's toilets, only 1 disabled toilet and 1 family room at the Basin Reserve. Cricket Wellington says there's been no movement on the toilet situation. So what did I do? Contact the Wellington City Council. They said, quote, "We're starting work with architects on designs to upgrade and extend the existing toilets and facilities on the embankment, with works likely to start next winter as the work can only be done outside of the cricket season. There are further plans for additional toilets, including accessible toilets, but this program is yet to be approved. And a report on plans for the museum stand is scheduled for April-May, so we will have more information then. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring you more in April as this progresses. But this is not actually just a cricket and Basin Reserve issue. This is toilets, access to toilets and facilities is a sport-wide issue, isn't it? That's
right. So Sport New Zealand did a Voice of the Participants survey in 2016, and one of the answers that came out from a raft of sports, but certainly from women's sports, was one of the quality things that they felt was poor was the access to bathrooms and clean bathrooms and enough bathrooms and all of those sorts of things that sit around women's sport. And so the councils often own most of those facilities. This is across the country, and so it's a call out to the councils to upgrade the facilities, make sure that they provide modern, clean, healthy environments for women to access bathrooms and facilities during when they want to play sport.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to seeing what comes about over the next couple of months from both Wellington City Council and Cricket Wellington and the Basin Reserve Trust. I'm not going to let this one sleep. And I'm always keen to hear your thoughts on this as well. You can contact us via Facebook and on Twitter at @producer_Zoe, at @Sports and at RNZ. And that is it for this episode of Fair Play. Thank you to our guest Katrina Grant, Go Well at Com Games, and Karen Nimmo, and of course co-host Carolyn Young. What are you looking forward to most this coming month?
Obviously Com Games. I think it's going to be incredibly exciting. Easter, just around the corner. We have a Easter egg hunt every year in the office. I run that, so really looking forward to putting that into play, because we have Our office is at the ASB Sports Centre. There's 12 netball courts there, so across the whole venue is where I hide the Easter eggs. You've got to be very good in our office to find those eggs. That's the highlight of the year.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. I might have to come and join you one year.
Fantastic.
I'm actually off to the New Zealand Cricket Awards next week, which is going to be
Fabulous.
Very exciting, and hopefully I'll be able to bring you some interviews with the winners from the night, which will be, I love getting all dressed up and going to things like that, so it'll be great fun. Thank you so much to RNZ and to executive producer Chris Stafford from Wisp Sports. You can follow, like and comment on all of our stuff on social media at wispsports.com, at RNZ and at producer_Zoe. There's heaps to engage with, from other sports podcasts from around the world at Wisp Sports to the quirky, political and sassy on RNZ. We'll be back in April with the latest in results, views and issues on Fair Play. I'm Zoe George. Thanks again, and don't forget to play hard but play fair.